Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says Fair Wind. The article here is speaking about Indian monsoons. We have the India Meteorological Department, which has recently issued a notification which said that India might have a third successful consecutive surplus amount of rainfall. In this particular backdrop, we have to understand what could be the possible advantages for India, what could be the negative implications for India, and how is that the Indian Ocean Dipole will have impact on the Indian monsoon. Before we understand what are the advantages and disadvantages, let's have a brief idea about the functioning of the Indian Ocean Dipole. What is this Indian Ocean Dipole? This is nothing but an irregular oscillation of the sea surface temperature where it is happening in the Indian Ocean region. There are two ways of looking at it. This Indian Ocean dipole is called as dipole. Why is it called as dipole? That is because on one side there is a western dipole to the Indian Ocean. On the other side there is an eastern dipole which is towards the Indonesian region. So what exactly happens? Changes in the temperature will ultimately have a positive impact on the monsoons to India or negative impact to the monsoons in India. Let us try and understand what is the positive Indian Ocean dipole. When you look into the positive Indian Ocean dipole, what exactly happens? On the eastern equatorial Indian Ocean region, that is towards Indonesia, what we have is the cooler than the normal temperature, which means there is very less temperature, colder temperature, which means there is high pressure in this particular region. On the western side, that is on the African side, what we have is the warmer than the normal temperature. During this particular period, what it develops is the low pressure. How does the wind pressure move? As we know from the principles of pressure, the pressure movement happens from the region of high pressure to the region of low pressure. Since the wind moves from the region of high pressure to the lower pressure, it drifts the wind towards the Indian subcontinent and ultimately more moisture steps in, and what we will have is good monsoon when it comes to the positive Indian Ocean dipole. So kindly remember, when it comes to the dipole, there are two poles. One is the western, the other is the eastern. So fluctuations in the temperature will cause the Indian Ocean dipole. If it is positive Indian Ocean dipole, what we will have is the warmer than the normal temperature across the western Indian Ocean, which means there will be positive rainfall for India, good rainfall for India. Ultimately, the monsoons will have better rainfall in India. If it is the negative Indian Ocean dipole, what would happen? There will be high pressure in the western part, there will be low pressure in the eastern part. So what would happen? There will be movement of winds from the high pressure western region to the low pressure region, which happens to be on the eastern Indian Ocean region. When this happens, the moisture laden wind is taken away from India, which means India might have negative impact because of the Indian Ocean dipole. So what happens in negative Indian Ocean dipole? It obstructs the progression of monsoon to India. So we would have negative impact of the monsoon. So this article currently goes on to say, if we have positive Indian Ocean dipole, what we will have is an advantageous position, more rainfall, and in the third year, what we will have is the surplus rainfall from the past 3 years. If we have negative ocean dipole, it means that India may have limited advantages, and what we will have is negative consequences to rainfall. So the India Meteorological Department says in the past 2 years, we have had the surplus rainfall. So it is anticipating that we may have the third surplus rainfall in India. Now the question is, if India does have the positive Indian Ocean dipole, and as predicted by India Meteorological Department, we do have successful rainfall as well. What could be the advantages? The major advantage is for the agriculture sector in India. India, when it comes to agriculture, still formulates and bases its production on the basis of rainfall. So whenever there is a good surplus rainfall, what we can have is good yield when it comes to the agriculture. So which sector will see a massive growth? It will be the agriculture sector, which will have good impact because of excessive or surplus rainfall. Added to this, whenever there is excessive rainfall, we would be in a much better position to save this rainfall in in the reservoir, we would be able to save it on the tanks, and ultimately this can be used for the future as well when there is drought-like conditions in India. So what are the advantages? The agriculture sector will see a boom, and at the same time water can be stored as well, and when this water can be stored, it can be used for the irrigation purposes, it can be used for drinking purposes, and ultimately it can also be used in the production of industries, and hydroelectricity can also be generated as well. These are some of the advantages for the Indian monsoon when we have the surplus rainfall in India. But the author in this particular article also gives us another viewpoint as well, and that is in reference to the negative consequences of surplus rainfall. What exactly happens whenever there is excess rainfall? We have seen floods that have occurred in Mumbai, we have seen floods that have occurred in Chennai, we have seen floods that have occurred in major cities in India. So the major problem is this may lead to landslides, it may lead to flash floods, and it may also lead to loss of lives as well as property as well. So what is the negative consequences? If the disaster management team is not prepared, it is not anticipating the excess rainfall, this could result in floods in that particular region. Ultimately, it will be the people at loss. On one side, there could be loss of lives. On the other side, the economic activity could be suspended, and this may also lead to various other problems to the people in that particular area. So what should India do? India, as of now, has moved to medium range forecast, expected change in the forecast, and also has patterns which is able to generate every 2 weeks. So what should India either do? India should make use of its successful monsoon model and should be in a much better position to understand how the monsoon can impact the regions in India. So basically, since India has all these models that it has, the scientific personnel that it has to anticipate the monsoon, where it can hurt the people, and eventually it has to develop the required infrastructure. So what should India do? The required infrastructure for the people so that it can prevent any issues of surplus water will have to be taken into picture. So it is not only with respect to the infrastructure. If there is excessive rainfall as well, this can also wipe out the potential gains for the agriculture, and going forward, the government will also have to ensure that more MSP is also given to other crops so that people do not bank only on rice and its productivity, but instead they move on agriculture crops which can also fetch them money as well. So going forward, the government will have to ensure that there is infrastructural support, and at the same time the minimum support price will have to be given to other crops so that the farmers don't actually start growing only rice in their area. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about mental health strategy. Before we understand what this article is all about, let's have a brief idea about what is mental illness. Mental illness is one of the health conditions where a person's mindset is playing with his emotions. Can we say that it is change in the emotions, change in the thinking or the behavior of that particular person, which will have disastrous or negative consequences on that particular person, where he is not able to lead proper social life, he is not able to adapt to the work life, or he is not engaging himself in the family activities. So whenever the thoughts, emotions that is fluctuating for that particular person, he has a very fickle minded mindset and he is not able to control the emotions. This creates a disturbing, distressful and negative impact on that particular person, which is called as mental illness. So basically, when we speak about mental illness, it includes anxiety disorders, psychotic disorders, mood disorders, substance use disorders, personality disorders, and eating disorders as well. So these are the possible implications of a mental illness. In fact, when you look at depressive disorders, which usually results in females, that is because of the domination of of the men, domination of the patriarchy in the society as well. So whenever there is sexual abuse, gender discrimination, stress that comes due to antenatal, postnatal issue, or any of which has been derived from the men and imposed on the women, where there is utmost misogyny towards the women, that might also cause depressive disorders to a woman. So what is this mental illness? This is about where there is distress and the emotions is not kept under check. The emotions is going in a negative way. This might ultimately lead to mental illness. Now if we have to look into the statistics, according to the World Health Organization, there is a 10 to 25 year life expectancy reduction in patients with severe mental disorders. So, a person who is not able to overcome the mental trauma, emotional distress may have negative impact. How his lifestyle will be impacted, which may reduce his years of life by 10 to 25 years. Globally, the suicide rate was about 10.6 per 1 lakh population, whereas in India, it was about 6.3 per 1 lakh in the year 2016. Reports have also said that in Lancet, 7 people in India had a mental disorder ranging from mild to severe in 2017. So, what do we understand from this? When you look into all these statistics on the global scale and also on the Indian front, people are suffering from mental disorders, mental illness, which is leading them to commit to suicides as well. When you consider the suicide rates in India, it is the males who are committing suicides more in comparison to the females. Now, when it comes to India, in order to overcome all these issues, the government of India has come up with multiple programs and schemes. Some of the programs include National Mental Health Policy in the year 2014, a rights-based Mental Health Care Act in 2017, which also replaced the Mental Health Care Act of 1987. And the government of India further came up with the National Health Mission, National Adolescent Health Program, and the Ayushman Bharat, which also has some of the provisions which relate to the mental health. In spite of these programs taken by the government of India, there is issues and concerns when it comes to the mental health. What are the various issues and concerns? When we look into the statistics as given by the Lancet Public Health 2019, it revealed that the median mental health spending across the world was around 2% of the total government health expenditure in the year 2015. So let's say the government in a particular country is spending about 5% when it comes to the health infrastructure and health development. So out of this 5%, only 2% goes to the health infrastructure on the global average. In case of low income countries, it is as less as 0.5%. When it comes to the low middle income countries, it was around 1.9%. For upper middle income countries, it was 2.4%. But for high income countries, the considerable increase for spending when it comes to the health related issues for the medical disorder was about 5.1%. Now, if you have to compare this to India, how much is India spending of all the health expenditure from the GDP? Within that, India is only spending 1.3% when it comes to India. In fact, the developed countries are spending 3 to 15%, but India is only spending 1.3% when it comes to the mental health. So what do we understand? That what we have is a higher allocation when it comes to mental health ailments in the developed countries, but it is comparatively less when it comes to developing countries and in special focus with respect to India. So what is that India is suffering from? When it comes to mental hospitals per 1 lakh population, it is as low as 0.01 in line with the developing countries. Funding is very less, delivery of mental health packages are very less, and we do not have trained staff to acknowledge the issues of mental illness and also suggest measures to the people suffering from mental ailments when it comes to India. So during this period of COVID-19, it has exasperated further. Why? Because people have lost their jobs and men are at home. There is increasing cases of domestic violence that is being reported, and all of this means that there is increasing cases of mental ailments and illness and disorders and depressive disorders that that have been reporting in multiple regions, especially even in India as well. So how do we overcome this particular issue? What are the measures that have to be taken? So going forward, in order to address all these mental health issues, India will have to reduce the treatment gap when it comes to the mental disorders. As of now, whenever a particular person approaches a government doctor or a private personnel or any of the NGOs and the communities, this is kind of neglected, assuming that a person is not going through any of these distressing conditions. So identifying and ensuring that the treatment is given on time is the priority for the entire stakeholders. So it is not only the government, but the private sector, the NGOs, in fact the people and the community will have to take the responsibility. We have to increase the number of personnel in the mental health sector. We have to work towards reducing the discriminatory attitudes. We should respect the emotions of another person, see that there is a problem within that particular person, help him overcome that particular issue eventually, so that that particular person comes out as a normal person. So identifying the attitude becomes important, because most of the times we do not respect that a particular person might be going through it. We do not take it more seriously. In fact, some of the times we also have discriminatory attitude towards a person suffering from mental disorder. So what we are supposed to do? All the inculcated prejudices, biases that is inculcated in a particular person will have to be taken away, for which community awareness is a must, student awareness is a must, and the government will have to get all the stakeholders on a common platform. We have to make sure that there is more counseling facilities, especially in the rural areas. And what we have also discussed is that there is depressive disorders when it comes to the women. So what are we supposed to do? We have to identify and also make sure that there are more women counselors, doctors in the rural areas as well. So an integrated approach for detecting the issue, treating the issue, managing the patients in the urban and the rural areas is the need of the hour. More telemedicine, telephone based helpline numbers, and mental health apps could also help as well. Communities and families will have to play a key role, and school based programs should make sure that all these aspects are covered when it comes to the education sector in India. To meet all of this, the government will have to increase the fund location for the treatment for the mental health is the need of the hour. So going forward, because there is mental health issues that has been increasing over a period of time, and especially since the COVID-19, the first wave and the second wave, there needs to be a blueprint and a way forward and an action plan by the government of India. Traditionally, it was the government which was the major stakeholder, but now what we have is the education system, the industry, the social media and awareness, the media and government involvement should be taken into picture. More counseling facilities have to be provided. So the way forward is the right decision at the right time to address the key ailments of mental issue is what is this article all about. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says belligerence and pushback. The article here is speaking about China's wolf warrior diplomacy. Before we understand what the author is trying to speak about, let's have a basic idea about the wolf warrior diplomacy. When you go back to the 1970s and much prior to that, China did not have good economics. China was having a socialistic model, which means number of developed countries, in fact developing countries as well, which were more prone to United States of America, were not accepting the Chinese model of political system, or they did not accept China at all. But then after 1970, what they had is the expansion of the economic system. What they also came up with is a capitalistic model of a state-run machinery. So what did they develop? They had very good economics, and from 2000 and after 2000, what we have is the China which is prosperous, which has economic might. And after this particular change that we see, what was once a conservative form of foreign diplomacy, where China was more conservative, were more passive, had a very key low assertive voice in the global system, all of a sudden, because it gained the economic might, became proactive and high profile. So that type of diplomacy where it turned from conservative to proactive, from passive to active, from low profile, low key to high profile system of foreign policy, that is what is called as the wolf warrior diplomacy. So earlier China was conservative in nature. It did not give back to other countries, but with 1970s and 2000, when the economic horizons started expanding, this gave wings to their assertive foreign policy, which is called as the wolf warrior diplomacy. So what is this wolf warrior diplomacy? Here the foreign policy would be aggressive, and the Chinese diplomats engaging in other countries were defending China's interest in confrontational ways. Earlier, they were not assertive, and now they have started become assertive and confrontational when it comes to their foreign policy. Let's take some of the examples. We had the COVID-19. COVID-19 did cause disastrous consequences to number of countries world over. What does China do? We know from the fact that China is also a manufacturing hub as well. Since it is a manufacturing hub, it started exporting the PPE kits. It started exporting other equipments that is required to fight the menace of COVID-19. In fact, few countries also resisted. In fact, they went to an extent of saying that some of the equipments given by China were malfunctioning or were not proper. That is when, in order to protect the self interest, in order to make sure that they give it back to the countries, China's diplomats started even tweeting, "Stop wearing China's mask, protective gears." In fact, they said that you can completely avoid China's products as well. Such was the case of assertion. So whenever someone has questioned the credibility of China, they have given it back in strong words, strong actions. That is what is wolf warrior diplomacy. Why are we discussing about this wolf warrior diplomacy? That is because recently there was one of the incident that happened with Bangladesh. China and Bangladesh have a very good relationship, but China does think that it controls and owns the entire world. What does China do? Every country has its own independent foreign policy. According to the foreign policy principles of Bangladesh, it is a sovereign country. It has every right to pick and choose and select what foreign policy it wants. It may have understood that if it is part of the Quad countries, then it will have positive impact on its economies, or it may decide on any other parameters as well. But what does China do? China immediately turns assertive. It starts questioning in assertive words the choice made by Bangladesh. Words were very assertive in nature, which is where Bangladesh replied to China that it is a sovereign country. It has every right to decide what its foreign policy is, and this is when the words of China became little diluted. What was once assertive in form became little diluted. So what is the inference we can draw? As of now, Quad countries are facing a lot of imbroglio, confusion and dilemma. They are not able to give out what exactly is the modus operandi of this particular organization. But one thing they are for sure is that they want a peaceful Indo-Pacific region, for which they have all come together and are standing against the might of China when it comes to the Indo-Pacific region. But what is the weakness? They do not have a clear-cut agenda when it comes to the operations. In spite of it, there are countries which are wanting to join as well, but China is giving a warning indirectly with this particular incident. So the message given to Dhaka was for also other countries as well, where it is asking other countries to desist, stop itself from engaging with the Quad countries. So what is China saying here? That if you are having relationship with the Quad countries, it is indirectly going to harm us, which means you have to stop yourself, resist from engaging in this particular Quad formation. This may have temporary relief for China, but on the long run, it will have opposite effect, says this article. Basically, the aggressive diplomacy that has been postured by China is not going to be helpful for China, but instead it is going to have opposite effect, says this article. So as the Quad gains more and more momentum, as there is assertive China which increases, as it increases its border conflict with multiple countries, so is with South China Sea. Many countries may fall in the loop of the Quad countries, and ultimately the belligerence of China can also be dropped, says this article. So the growing belligerent China, growing hegemony and dominance in and around the water as well as on the land is going to be problematic to China, says this article. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says government will revert to centralized procurement of vaccines, says Prime Minister of India. This is just a quick update with respect to the vaccines. As of now, we have the central government which is providing free vaccines to the healthcare workers. It is providing free vaccines to the public officials and all those who are engaged in the government activities. It was also providing free vaccines to the people who are greater than 45 years of age. But the central government had also issued an earlier notification where it was the responsibility of the state governments to provide vaccination for the age group between 80 to 44 years of age. So what does this article say? According to the latest notification given by the Prime Minister, he goes on to say that in the near future, 18 to 44 years will also be provided vaccine by the government of India. As of now, it is the state government which is providing it, but in the near future, it will be the central government which will provide free vaccines to the age group between 18 to 44. Added to this, whenever you go to the private hospitals, they might have procured that particular vaccine for a considerable price, but then they might also increase the price for their own profit as well. This profit or the service charge should not be greater than 150, says this notification. So he announced a cap of 150 on the amount private capitals can charge over the cost of purchase of that particular vaccine from the manufacturers. The Prime Minister of India also announced free ration to the people of India, and this will continue up until November, says the Prime Minister of India under the Pradhana Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. So these are the quick updates with respect to the vaccines, with respect to the service charge of the private hospitals, and also in reference to the ration distribution to the people in India. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the mains practice question. What do you understand by Indian Ocean Dipole? Discuss its impact on the Indian monsoons. Next question. As the curve of coronavirus infection spikes, depression and despair are also likely to increase. Explain what measures have to be taken to overcome the silent pandemic of anxiety and mental ailments. So please write all your answers on the comment section. Peer review. Do give positive feedback to your friends' answers. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.